Life of an entrepreneur, balancing family life. John had always dreamed of being his own boss. The idea of freedom, making his own rules, and building something meaningful excited him. What he didn't realize, however, was that being an entrepreneur with a family meant signing up for a never-ending roller coaster ride of business meetings, diaper changes, school runs, and unexpected emergencies, like when his 3-year-old tried to flush a teddy bear down the toilet. Morning mayhem, the daily battle begins. John's day always started the same way, with the loud, unfiltered voice of his 5-year-old son, Ethan, who served as his personal alarm clock. "Daddy, wake up. I need cereal." John groaned, barely opening his eyes. His wife, Sarah, had already left for her morning shift, so he was on breakfast duty. As he dragged himself to the kitchen, his phone buzzed. A client from the UK had sent an urgent message at 3 a.m. about a proposal. John squinted at the screen, half reading it while pouring cereal. Ethan suddenly yelled, "Daddy! You're pouring orange juice in my cereal." John snapped out of his daze and looked down in horror. His mind was so consumed by work that he had just ruined his son's breakfast. "A new recipe," he offered weakly. Ethan was not impressed. The work-from-home struggle. After dropping Ethan off at school, John rushed back to his home office, a small but cozy corner of the living room. He had a video call with investors in 15 minutes and needed everything to go perfectly. As he set up, the baby monitor crackled. His 1-year-old daughter, Lily, had woken up and was screaming for attention. John sprinted to her room, scooped her up, and bounced her gently while sending a quick email to his assistant with one hand. By the time his meeting started, he was feeling somewhat in control, until Lily, now sitting on his lap, decided that his laptop keyboard looked like a fun toy. Just as John was explaining his company's growth potential, Lily slammed her tiny hands on the keyboard, accidentally exiting the call. John stared at the screen in horror. His phone rang almost immediately. It was his assistant. Sir. I think your investors just saw a baby hijack the meeting." Lunchtime chaos. By noon, John was starving. He had planned a quick lunch and some work catch-up, but just as he sat down with his sandwich, his phone rang again. It was Sarah. "Hey, babe, can you pick up Ethan from school? My shift ran late." "Sure," John replied, taking one last bite of his sandwich before grabbing his keys. An hour later, he returned home with a very talkative Ethan, who immediately asked, "Daddy, can I play video games?" John sighed. He needed to finalize a report, but he also knew Ethan had been looking forward to playing together. "Give me 30 minutes, buddy, then we'll play." Of course, 30 minutes turned into 2 hours, and by the time John finally looked up, Ethan was sulking. The guilt hit him like a truck. Okay, let's play," John said, shutting his laptop. Ethan's face lit up, and within minutes, John found himself in a heated game of Mario Kart, where he was getting mercilessly beaten by a 5-year-old. The evening juggle dinner was a war zone. Lily refused to eat unless she could use her hands, and Ethan wanted pizza instead of vegetables. Meanwhile, John tried to answer a text from a client, only for Sarah to shoot him a look that said, "Put that phone down or else." He sighed, slipping the phone into his pocket. As much as he loved his business, he had to remind himself, family came first. After dinner, it was bedtime chaos. Ethan refused to sleep without hearing a bedtime story about superheroes, and Lily kept throwing her pacifier out of the crib just to see John pick it up. By the time the kids were finally asleep, John dragged himself to his laptop, exhausted but determined. He had 2 hours of work left to do before midnight. As he typed, Sarah sat beside him on the couch. "You know, you work too much," she said softly. John exhaled. "I know. I want to make this business work." Sarah smiled. "And you will. But don't forget, you're not just building a business. You're also building a family." That hit home. John reached for her hand, squeezing it. "I'll try to balance it better," he promised. The entrepreneur's reality: balancing family and business was a never-ending challenge. Some days, John felt like he was winning. Other days, he felt like a complete failure. But at the end of the day, no amount of success could replace the joy of hearing his kids laugh or seeing Sarah smile. Being an entrepreneur wasn't just about growing a company, it was about growing a life worth living. And that was the greatest business venture of all.